y'all need to turn the volume up right now.
Easier it's going to be for us to try and solve this. Okay, if we don't get any information, you know, it's let me throw this out to you. Okay, and just be straight up, man. Just be this is an honest answer, and I would respect you, okay, by just telling me the truth, even if it's something that I don't want to hear. But I respect the truth rather than BS, okay? And it's a simple question. If you knew who did this, okay, you may or may not know. If you knew who did this, would you tell me? It's either a yes or no question. Answer.
Honestly?
Yeah, honestly. The truth. You wouldn't?
Because I wouldn't really be a part of it. I wouldn't really be.
Okay. I respect that. I respect that.
I don't like it. It's a lot of colors and I'd be killed.
Because you rather just handle it within you guys? Okay.
Now, for reference, y'all, that is Henry, who was on that audio recording with the detective. And Henry was the driver of the vehicle the night of the shooting. The detective asks him, "Be honest with me. If you knew who did it, would you tell me?" Henry says, "No, I wouldn't." He goes on to say that he would just rather keep it within their close sect because he feels as though they can handle getting their revenge, quote unquote. And he said he also feared that he'd get murdered if he just told. But they broke for recess, and I think it's for their lunch. So I'll keep y'all posted because this trial is heating up. And we're back from lunch. And woo child, listen to this cross-examination by the defense.
So prior to you even discussing the matter with Mr. Cortlen Henry for the first time, you had already been told that based on the description of the location of the incident that he provided to law enforcement, they found no evidence.
Right, from I-70, based on what Cortlen told the officers. Okay. So, yeah.
So at that time, you had already formed the impression that he was either mistaken or not being candid.
Well, I think through the statement, it was pretty evident that we were trying to narrow down where that location was. You know, because we knew that based on what he initially told the officers, it didn't happen there. So we were trying to narrow it down. That's why you keep hearing us trying to figure out the locations and giving descriptions of landmarks in the area to kind of narrow down where that location was so we can look for evidence.
Right. Because he wasn't giving you exact addresses, he was giving you descriptions, and you were trying to decipher from the descriptions that he provided,
right,
where he might have been described.
Exactly, where the incident happened.
And you knew to this point, at least up to the point where you began your interview with him, that the information, or at least the impressions that law enforcement had formed based upon what he said, were not matching up, right?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you started off your interview by telling him, hey, we got a problem. What you told us is not matching up with what we found at the scene.
Right.
And you developed an impression throughout the course of that interview that he wasn't being candid. Did you not?
Well, later on, we did, after we saw that there was a fourth person in the car, when we didn't find any evidence. But that's why we brought him we had an officer, two detectives bring him to the scene to kind of narrow down the search area. But we did a pretty wide search of the area.
So if you're a little confused, let me catch you up. This is the defense attorney for YNW Melly. He's cross-examining the lead detective on the case. And the defense attorney got him caught in a gotcha question. And if you listen to the audio recording in the last video we posted before lunch, you can already see that this lead detective was basically trying to throw Henry and YNW Melly under the bus. And before even checking the full crime scene, which happens to be a mile long, well, we think you guys know something that you're not telling us. Crazy, but there's more. This is part 1.6 of the YNW Melly trial, and his defense did not come to play.
So when you were telling him stuff like, hey, if it was my friend, I'd really want to help the law enforcement officers out. I mean, don't you want to help your friend? You weren't trying to get him to be candid. You were trying to get him to reach into the depths of his recollection. Is that what you're trying to do?
I would say probably both.
Okay. So you were trying to make an assessment of his credibility throughout the course of this exchange.
Sure.
Fair, right?
Sure.
Okay. So you, having been a detective for so long, you kind of have a BS meter. You refer to, I don't want to be BS, right?
Yes, sir.
You figure you have a BS meter that's pretty well calibrated.
I guess.
Was it going ding, 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 ding?
Like I said, I was trying to find out where the incident happened.
I understand.
And that was basically it.
I'm trying to ask if your BS meter was starting to be triggered throughout the course of this exchange. That's my question.
I guess.
It was.
Sure.
Okay. So, therefore, you did discern that this man to whom you were speaking, this man that you were interviewing, not interrogating, may be taking you for a ride. Right? That's the ding, ding, ding part.
I don't know if, like I said, I was at that point, he was a victim. I had no reason to believe otherwise. We were basically trying to narrow down the location. I also understand that being shot at is a traumatic experience based on what he's saying. And that's why we had him, he was transported to the scene to see if we can narrow down the location.
This broad shoulder you see across my shoulder is YNW Melly's defense attorney. He is trying to determine if the lead detective had preconceived notions while he was either interrogating Henry or interviewing Henry. And if you go back and listen to parts 1.4 of this series, you'll see that that was not an interview. That was indeed an interrogation. The lead detective also admitted under oath that that crime that happened on the east side had nothing to do with this case. And he also admits that Henry, the driver, was a victim. Now that's funny because you treated Henry, the driver, like a criminal. There's definitely more. Up next, the CSI investigator.
Did you do the same GSR testing to Mr. Thomas's hands?
Yes, I did.
And with regards to that, were there any results on that?
No, the results were negative.
Now that's interesting because the prosecution is claiming that Melly had did the shooting from inside the vehicle. Now it's being speculated that when the defense gets their chance to cross-examine this crime scene investigator, they're going to ask her in regards to how does GSR work? Now let me explain. Because when an individual is shot in a car by an assailant in the same proximity, because they're in a vehicle, it means that everyone would be able to have GSR gunpowder residue on them because it's such a close confined space. And the crime scene investigator stated that there were no defensive wounds on either of the deceased's hands. So if they were being shot in the car, why didn't they put their hands up? All the more reason why the defense is going to argue that indeed the crime happened outside the vehicle while the gentlemen were driving to their destination. And of course, there's more, so let me get myself back into court. And we're back with more testimony from the CSI investigator.
The search warrant and the photographs that were taken at that, you said there was no firearms recovered?
Correct.
Now, that's interesting that they were never able to recover a firearm because while they were doing their search, they also stated that they did find one shell casing. And there's no telling whose shell casing that was because, again, we have no concept of how long it had been sitting there. Now, I saved y'all because you didn't have to go through the entire 2 hours of this crime scene investigator just basically opening up packages and telling the jury as well as the audience what she had found. Essentially, it was their driver's license, a little bit of cash, and their clothing. She also went ahead and discussed what she saw at the scene in regards to their bodies. Now, she did state she is not a medical examiner, so she can't tell you what's going on inside their bodies, but basically what's going on outside and what she can perceive from what she saw. Now, tomorrow is day 2 of trial, and they're going to pick back up with this witness, and then it's the defense. And based off of the way that Melly's defense attorney had cross-examined that detective, she better be prepared for tomorrow. Now, trial starts as early tomorrow as 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in Broward County, so be up early and have your coffee.